of the African Union, ECOSOC, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Diplomatic Corps, captains of industry, business leaders, representatives of academia, civil society, the representative of the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by conveying the deepest regrets of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He really was looking forward to attending this very important summit. But you do know the exigencies of the presidency. Unfortunately, he would have to miss this opening ceremony. But he asks that I extend to you his very warm regards, his deepest apologies, and he's looking forward to the recommendations that the rapporteurs will put together after this summit. And as you do know, we had very, very good news over the weekend from ECOWAS. All the West African presidents endorsed him as the next African Union chairperson in 2027. So this convening, it's very timely and very fortuitous. And he will be looking forward to the report so that he can hit the ground running in 2027 when he becomes the chairperson of the African Union. And he has asked me to tell our convener, the Honorable John Alan Kyeremanten, that he will have a very special place when he becomes AU chairperson because of the work he is doing. So we are definitely going to need the expertise, the experience, and this very reputable organization, the Honorable John Alan Kyeremanten, has put together as Ghana prepares to assume the leadership of the African Union. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather at a moment of both extraordinary promise and sobering reality. As aptly captured in the concept notes of this summit, Africa stands as one of the most richly endowed regions on earth, with a population of approximately 1.4 billion and a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. We control about 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, 1/5 of all forest resources, and many of the world's most strategic mineral resources. Yet Africa, after decades of political independence, remains the poorest continent in the world and ranks the lowest on the global human capital index. The continent continues to grapple with fragmentation, weak intra-African trade, infrastructural deficits, limited industrial integration, and excessive dependence on external markets and systems. As once postulated by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our founding father and Africa's greatest prophet of unity, when he stood before the founding conference of the Organization of African Unity in 1963 and declared with characteristic vision, quote, "We must unite or perish," unquote. Those words were a call to action that resonates even more urgently today than it did 6 decades ago. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what is making our situation more precarious is that the global environment within which Africa must pursue its integration agenda is undergoing rapidly profound transformation. The once touted unipolar world is fast fading into oblivion, paving way for geopolitical rivalries with supply chain reconfigurations, climate change, pandemics, digitalization, and artificial intelligence reshaping the international order. In this rapidly changing context, Africa's fragmentation is no longer merely a developmental challenge. It is a serious vulnerability. Africa must therefore transform itself from being passive observers to an active shaper of global outcomes. This requires united African voice, coordinated diplomacy, and collective economic action. As widely asserted by many, integration enhances resilience, disunity magnifies vulnerability. It is in this regard that we align with those who believe that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area represents one of the most ambitious economic integration projects in modern history. And at this juncture, let me ask for a round of applause for the Honorable Kyeremanten for the instrumental role he played. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area, for those of you who do not know, is a vision of our founding father, the Osagifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, which was revived by Professor John Evans Atta-Mills of blessed memory at the African Union. He tabled the motion that it is time for Africa to rekindle that. And after that motion was unanimously adopted, we saw the Honorable John Allen Kyeremanten do a lot of the legwork under former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and we had the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat secured and established here in Ghana. So those of you who do not see the bipartisan effort, you see right from the visionary Kwame Nkrumah CPP, then reignited by Professor Mills NDC, and implemented, executed by the MPP under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Trade Minister Alan Kyeremanten. So you see that we work together when we decide to work together. And we achieve results anytime we work together. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, when fully implemented, has the propensity to pull millions of Africans out of poverty, create jobs for our youthful population, expand industrial capacity, and enhance Africa's bargaining power in the global economy. It must, however, be stressed that the success of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area will depend on our collective resolve to dismantle non-tariff barriers, harmonize regulatory regimes, invest in trade-related infrastructure, and support small and medium-sized enterprises to compete effectively across borders. Excellencies, let me be quick to opine that the objectives of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and indeed our integration agenda, would remain a mirage without cohesive and strong regional economic communities, which remain essential pillars of Africa's integration architecture. We must strengthen coordination between regional and continental frameworks to avoid fragmentation, duplication, and policy incoherence. Let me also clarify that integration is not the sole responsibility of central governments. The private sector is a key driver of Africa's transformation. Financial institutions, entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors must be supported through predictable policies, efficient border systems, and access to finance. Likewise, academia and civil society have a critical responsibility in generating ideas, shaping public discourse, and building leaders accountable. In addition, Africa's integration agenda must be people-centered. It must deliver tangible benefits in the form of jobs, opportunities, mobility, security, and dignity to ordinary Africans. Our youth and women, who constitute the majority of our population, must be at the heart of the transformation. We must come to terms with the fact that investing in our people is absolutely critical for Africa's inclusive growth, poverty reduction, and global competitiveness. We must provide quality education relevant to today's job market and lifelong learning. We must certainly build skills for the future we deserve. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Africa's vibrant cultural renaissance. Across our continent, our artists, our musicians, writers, filmmakers, bloggers are telling the African story that challenge old narratives and celebrate our heritage. Digital platforms are enabling our young creators to showcase their talents, to global audiences. This cultural renaissance represents significant economic potential through cultural industries, tourism, and trade. It shapes how the world sees Africa and how we see ourselves. This must be harnessed for the united and prosperous Africa we envision. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I take my seat, let me once again indicate that this inaugural African Summit provides a timely and critical platform for thought leadership, frank dialogue, and consensus building. The true measure of the success of the summit will lie not in the eloquence of our speeches, but in the effectiveness of the actions that follow. Not the significance of the theme of the summit, building a united Africa. The operative word is building. We are not merely to discuss, to debate, or to dream. We are here to build. We are here to work. We are here to move from dialogue to implementation, from vision to action. Over the next 2 days, you will engage in critical discussions on establishing the African Central Bank and adopting a common currency, developing a new governance architecture for the African Union, strengthening the African Parliament and the African Court of Justice, establishing the African High Command, and implementing Africa Continental Free Trade Area at the national level. These are the building blocks of the united Africa we seek. Each represents a concrete step toward greater integration, interdependence, and interconnectedness. We in Ghana remain unwavering in our commitment to advancing Africa's integration agenda. As host of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Ghana regards this role as both an honor and a responsibility. Under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, Ghana will continue to champion policies that promote intra-Africa trade, industrialization, regional value chains, and the free movement of people, goods, services, and capital. We convene exactly 80 years since our forebears met at the famous 5th Pan-African Conference in Manchester in 1945. That was a dream for the political liberation of Africa. Now what Africa needs is economic liberation, prosperity, and wealth for all Africans. We must keep that dream alive 80 years on. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, I once again commend the organizers, led by the Honorable John Allan Kyeremanten, for putting together the program for the African Summit 2025, and urge all participants to commit themselves to concrete time-bound actions that will accelerate Africa's journey towards full continental integration. Let this summit mark a turning point in our united continental journey. May our deliberations be fruitful, and may Africa rise, united, confident, and strong. I thank you for your attention. God bless you all.
I believe that speech deserves a bigger round of applause. Thank you so much, the good minister, Honorable OKUDZETO ABLAKWA. And yes, this summit, the conversations and dialogues and dreams that will be shared here would not be left at dialogues and dreams and conversations alone. This is where vision meets action. And after today and tomorrow, the plan is that we will build this interconnected, integrated Africa that we dream of, and not leave it at conversations alone. We're going to shortly have the good minister come back here as chair for the next session. But before that, we'd like to say a very big thank you to some of our partners who have made this summit possible. A very special thank you to the African Export-Import Bank, to the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, our partners DP World, RNAQ Holdings, and Protect Ghana. And a very special thank you also to our planning committee. We'll introduce you shortly. We would have had a networking break here at this time, but I saw that as we all came in, we did a lot of networking and conversations, and we're trying to stick to time. As the conversations here matter, we're saying that we're moving from vision to action. One of the things we are doing as Africans now is to stick to time, start on time, stay within time, and end on time. And so we will not have our networking break. We'll move straight into our first session, our summit keynote address. And I'd like to one more time invite the Minister for Foreign Affairs, a round of applause one more time, to the Honorable Sam OKUDZETO ABLAKWA as it comes and introduces our summit speakers in this session. Thank you. A round of applause for him as he joins us again.
Well, thank you very much, Na. We are all eager to listen to our special guest of honor. Our special guest of honor was President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. He was democratically elected, led the transformation of Sierra Leone after that brutal civil war. And to his credit, he laid strong democratic foundations which have proven to be enduring. He is very well respected, did not attempt to change the constitution to extend his tenure, as we are seeing in some places, which we must loudly condemn, because we should not only be heard condemning coups, but there can be so-called democratic constitutional manipulations that are worse than coups or akin to coups. So when we have African democratically elected leaders who conduct themselves so well in office, who do not try to subvert the will of the people, and who respect the constitution that brought them to office, we must continue to celebrate and hail them. And so this distinguished African patriot is an inspiration, not only in Sierra Leone, not only in West Africa, but in many, many parts of the world. And since leaving office, he has dedicated himself to the integration of the continent, to good causes that would unite us and that will keep the Pan-African flames burning. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, it is my honor and delight to introduce to you our guest speaker, His Excellency Ernest Bai Koroma, former President of the Republic of Sierra Leone.